Hi everyone, my name is Matt Ellis and I'm the owner and the head strength coach here at Primal Athlete Training Center in Cranston, Rhode Island. You know, Primal is sort of a down and dirty training center that works with a lot of different athletes from all different sports. And one of the major topics that always comes up when working with other coaches or working with athletes are the shoulders. We do a lot of work with athletes who throw, whether it's a quarterback, a baseball player, javelin thrower, shot putter, even volleyball players spiking the ball. Coaches don't like to do a lot of work that directly targets the shoulder. I have the opposite opinion, and a lot of other strength coaches have the opposite opinion, where if the shoulder is getting used all the time, what you want to do is actually train that shoulder directly throughout the season. That way you can keep the shoulder strong, keep the shoulder flexible, and keep the shoulder healthy as the season goes on. So at the end of the year, at the end of the season, your athlete isn't struggling, your athlete doesn't have a lot of pain, your athlete's shoulders are still nice and strong toward the end of the year, the big games and the big meets and the big tournaments where they really need to have that strong shoulder, that strong arm. Now before we get into the 5 exercises that I like to use here at Primal to keep that shoulder nice and healthy and flexible and strong, I want to alert you guys to a few things. Number one, we put out videos like this about 1 or 2 times a week. So up at the top, there's a button right here above my head that says subscribe. If you guys can click that button, you are going to be subscribed to this channel on YouTube, and you're going to get an email. You're going to get something to notify you in your inbox whenever a new video comes out. Those videos are all helpful, free tips and tricks that you can take out to the field or you can take out in the weight room and help your athletes. Whenever it comes out, something you can immediately change or immediately implement into your lifting schedule or into your practice schedule that's going to help your athletes out instantly. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the camera around to our squat rack and we're going to take you to the first major strength training movement, the bread and butter strength training movement for any shoulder, which is the overhead press. We're going to show you the proper way to do it, that you can increase not only strength, but also the flexibility in that shoulder joint. So we're going to turn you around and show you that first movement right now. Okay everyone, now the first exercise we're going to talk about today is the overhead press. It's a pretty basic movement. Everybody has a good idea of how to do it. We're just going to show you a little tip and a little trick that you can do to make sure that your athlete's shoulders are staying nice and flexible and staying with a good range of motion. Now if you notice, we are here at the squat rack and we are standing up. Most of these shoulder movements that we do, and most every exercise that we do here at Primal, is going to be standing on your feet. Why is that? Well, most athletes, they're on their feet. And because they're on their feet, it carries over a little bit better into their sport. They're on their feet, they're using their shoulders, so when we're doing these exercises, we're going to be on our feet as we use our shoulders. Pretty basic. So let me show you that standing overhead press. You can either do a push press, military press, you can use a 45-pound bar with weights, you can use dumbbells, kettlebells, whatever you do, but when you press overhead, we want to show you one tip and one trick that's going to make this much more functional, much more healthy for the shoulder, and increase the range of motion and the flexibility while increasing the strength. We're going to take the bar about shoulder width apart. And as we take the bar shoulder width apart, we unrack it, we've got the bar right underneath the chin. Okay? Now, as it's underneath the chin, what we're going to do is we're going to press up. As we press past the head, we're going to finish with the shoulder behind the head. The bicep is going to be behind the ear, and my chest and my head are actually going to come through and cycle through. Let me do a few reps just to show you. So we're bringing it down under the chin. We're going to press over the head and finish with the shoulders and the bicep behind the ear. Now a good way to test this, as you can see, I'm looking and I can see the camera and you can see my face. Now most machines and most athletes that don't have the shoulder flexibility, they're going to finish with the bar in front of their face. And if I were to try to look over, I'd be looking right at my bicep. So instead of being on a machine that limits the range of motion, we're going to press overhead and let the shoulder, the chest, and the head come right through at the top. Now we're going to move on to my second shoulder movement. which is the overhead lunge. Now you guys might be telling yourself, well, it's a lunge, that's more of a leg strengthening movement. And while that's true, by holding one dumbbell overhead, we're going to show you guys how that's going to increase strength and flexibility and range of motion in that shoulder joint. Okay, now exercise number 2 is the overhead lunge. The overhead lunge is just what it sounds like. We're going to take a light dumbbell, we're going to put it overhead, we're going to get the shoulder all the way back like we were just doing in the overhead press, and we're going to lunge backwards. Now there's a few ways that you can do this. We're going to take and show you the standard way that we use here at Primal. We're going to take the dumbbell, press it overhead, and get that shoulder back. So we don't want to see it pressed overhead in front. We want to see it overhead and back behind the ear. Bicep behind the ear. And we're simply going to lunge back with the right leg and stand up. Lunge back, stand up. Now, tougher way to do it is to keep it in the right hand, but lunge back with the left. Lunge back with the left. It's a little bit more difficult. You have to keep your balance a little bit more. Now once you've mastered this, you can then put 2 dumbbells overhead. It's a little bit harder. It makes you work on the flexibility of the middle of your back, the upper back, and the shoulders a lot more to further increase that range of motion. Now from here we're going to go to a new one that a lot of you might not have heard of, which is called the Seesaw Press. We're going to show you what that looks like right now. Okay, now for the Seesaw Press, I like to use kettlebells, but you can use dumbbells, whatever you might have, 2 equally weighted objects. In the Seesaw Press, it gets its name because you're actually going to be moving the kettlebells or the dumbbells like a seesaw. So instead of doing an alternating press where one comes up, down, and the other one goes up and down, you're actually going to be moving them so when one is coming down, the other one's moving up. When that one's coming down, the first one's moving up. Now, the secret to this is as we push, we're going to turn and face the direction that we're pushing. So check this out. We're going to push with the right, face the right. So what we're doing is we're increasing flexibility in the stomach muscles and the core and the hips, while increasing flexibility and strength in the shoulders. Now notice, as I come down, the other pushes up. So as you face forward, they should both be at about head level. And by having both dumbbells or kettlebells right in front of our body, we're actually moving in the natural range of motion that the shoulder joint wants to move. The shoulder wants to move from front to back. Okay? Machines will limit to just going down to the ear and up, but with these we are able to go full range of motion all the way from in front of the chest to behind the ear. Now the next exercise we're going to do is actually called a get up sit up. Now you hear sit up and you think that's more of an ab movement, and you're correct. But like the overhead lunge, this also increases flexibility in the shoulder joint. Let me show you what that looks like next. Now the get up sit up is probably one of the most hated exercises that we do here at Primal. And what that shows me is that it's an exercise that really works and that the athletes actually are getting a lot of benefit from doing. Now like the title says, it's a get up sit up. So it does activate a lot of the hips, lower back, and stomach to strengthen the core. However, this has, much like that overhead lunge, a hidden property to it in that it increases the range of motion and the flexibility and strength of the shoulders. Let me show you what it looks like. We start on the ground with our legs spread apart and our toes straight up in the air. In my hand I have an easy curl bar. Easy curl bar has about 5 pounds on each side, so we're looking at around a 30-pound bar right now. What we're going to do is we're going to jam those heels into the ground. We're going to throw the bar forward and we're going to sit up underneath it. So you have to think about sitting up under the weight. Now as we sit up, we want to make sure that we get the shoulders back behind the head as far as possible. So what you'll see when athletes first do this, they'll move the bar and they'll end here. We want to make sure they get their hands all the way back behind the head. Down, up, and behind the head. Down, up, and behind the head. Now, if you have athletes that do this and their feet are coming up off the ground, easy solution, just take a few fingers, put the fingers right on the toes. That way they don't have to concentrate as much in slamming the feet down as they do using their stomach to get up and making their shoulders go all the way back behind their head. Now the final exercise we're going to do is a dumbbell clean and press. It's a variation of a tough Olympic lift that you can teach your athletes. You'll be able to show them in just a few minutes and they're going to benefit from it immediately. Okay everyone, the final exercise that we're going to show you to keep your shoulders strong, healthy, and mobile throughout the season is the dumbbell clean and press. Now a traditional clean and press is going to take quite a long time to show your athletes how to do properly. The reason being is that both hands are attached to a 45-pound bar. You're dealing with a pretty heavy weight. You're trying to teach them how to keep the shoulders back, how to keep the knees bent properly, how to explode. There's a much easier way of doing this, and it's going to get you the same results, and that is the dumbbell clean and press. Now to do this, you need a somewhat heavy dumbbell. I have a 55-pound dumbbell in my hand. This is something I could typically press over my head probably 10 to 12 times, but we're going to be working in a lower set range of about 4 sets of about 5 to 6 reps. So again, it's a weight that I can do a lot more, but we're going to be concentrating on moving it much faster. Now to do the clean, you want the feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. What we're going to do is we're going to sit back and dip down so that the weight is right in between our knees. So we're going to sit down so it's between our knees, and with a straight arm, we're going to explode with the knees and with the hips and bring that weight up to the shoulder. Now from here, we're going to dip again and press overhead, finishing with the weight behind our head, the same way that we did with the first 4 movements. Dip, press. So bring it down, explode, dip and press. Bring it down, explode, dip and press. When you get done with your 5 or 6 reps on the right hand, switch to the left. So not only does this benefit the health and the flexibility and the range of motion in the shoulders, it's also a total body explosive movement that carries over into any explosive sport where you're exploding with the legs, exploding with the hips. Alright, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. The next video we're going to do has to deal with a great shoulder warm-up that you can use, that you can do just using basically a piece of stretch tubing or a band that you might have in your weight room or down in the field house. Please make sure to subscribe to this video. Click that little button right up here. You'll get an update whenever new videos are made. And you can check these out, take these tips out to your team, and show them immediate improvement the next day. Thanks again, guys. We hope to hear from you soon.